Okay, so we have the intro to percents, and let's start with the relationship between percents and decimals. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a percent and turn it into a decimal. So in order to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to start at the back or where the decimal is and move it 1, 2 places over. And you got to go by numbers, okay? So skip one number, skip the second number, and that's where your decimal goes to make it an actual decimal. If we have 78%, there's no decimal there, so we may assume that the decimal is at the very end. So I'm going to move it 2 over to the left. 1, 2. That's where my decimal is going to go in front of that 7. So I will have 0.78 or 0.78. Let's do it again. This time we have a 2, okay? So my decimal, once again, is going to start here at the very end of this number if there is not one given to us. And I'm going to move it over. 1, 2. Now see how there's a blank space here? We're going to put a 0 in that blank space. So that means that decimal is going to be in front of that 0. So we're going to have 0.2. Or you can write it as 0.02. Either is fine as long as you remember that that decimal is going to be in front of that 0 you originally wrote out, not this second one. So just be careful with that. This is actually very good practice, so you can read your grade or figure out your grade on quizzes and tests. Now, in the last one, we went to the left, so we went left 2. If you go from percent to decimal, you go left 2. In this one, though, we're going decimals to percent. So this time, we're going to go right 2. And just like before, start at the decimal. And if you don't see one, then start at the end of the number that you are given. And we're going to go to the right. So we have 1.5. Here's my decimal. There is one there. I'm going to go to the right 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Now I got to be careful. There was a blank there, so I got to put a 0. So that means I'm going to have 150%. So 1.5, $1.50 is 150%. Next one, we have a decimal. We're going to move it to the right 2. 1, 2. Now it's behind the last 0 here, so that means we have 30%. We write it as 30%, not as 0.30%. This is goofy. No. Next one, we have a 5. So I assume the decimal's all the way right here to the right 2. 1, 2. That's 2 blank spaces where I'm going to put a 0. So that means I'm going to have 500%. All right. We next have how to set up percent problems. So this is you're going to need to pay attention to, right? Because now we're going to talk about increasing, decreasing percents. And what happens with an increase or decrease percent is first you figure out what that increase or decrease percent is, apply that, and then change it to a decimal. So looking at this first one here, we have a 15% increase, okay? So what that means is we are going to take 100% and we're going to increase that by 15%, right? So we got that 15%. Now, if I'm increasing by 15%, that means I'm adding, okay? So 100% plus 15% is a beautiful 115%, okay? But again, we got to change that to a decimal. So I'm going to change that to a decimal, and that's like what we just did right above it, right? We're using this skill a super lot. So change that to a decimal. Here's the back. 1, 2 to the left. So that means it's going to be 1.5 as a decimal. The next one is a 7% decrease, okay? So once again, we're still going to have that 100% because you always start with 100% of whatever you got. And this time we had 7%. Now if we're decreasing, what do you think we're going to do? Now remember, with increasing, we added. So if you're decreasing, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to subtract. So that gives you 93%. And again, we want to change that to a decimal once we have that done. And just like last time, start in the back, 1, 2 to the left. So this is going to be 0.93 or 0.93 as a decimal. Now, sometimes you're going to have word problems. Actually, a lot of times you're going to have word problems. So if you buy shoes that are 15% off, okay, well, I know I have 100%. I know I have that 15%. But if it's 15% off, does that mean I'm adding that percent or subtracting that percent? Subtracting that percent. So really, we're only paying 85% of that shoe. And when I change that to a decimal, to the right, to the left, we have 0.85 or 0.85. You went out to eat and want to tip 20% because you're a good human being. Well, we know we have 100%. We know that we have 20%. I always tip 20%. Now, if you tip somebody, are you paying them more money or less money? You're paying more money. So you're going to add those, which gives you 120%. Right? Change that once again to a decimal. To the left 2 from that back. And you get 1.2 when you change it to a decimal. Very good. End of the video. Good luck. Have a good day.